Hello and welcome to the Minutes to Win at NBA podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. Talking about some minutes up, down, sideways, whatever it may be for tonight's slate. Starting off talking about Denver first off. Reports coming out. Nikola Jokic has earned the starting role. It's a good spot for him. He's only played 12 and 19 minutes the last two games. Had an 18-minute game in his last five as well. But, I mean, this is a guy that does have upside. Facing a Milwaukee team that, I mean, is arguably the worst defense in the league. I mean, they're one of the worst. And while Greg Monroe's not a great individual matchup, he's not a guy that's focused on defense either. Whole situation with him, you assume, I mean, starters doesn't necessarily mean as much in the NBA as other sports, but you assume 25-plus minutes moving forward. The real question as far as minutes on this team goes, though, is going to be Kenneth Faried, who they say is back tonight. We saw him last time play only 14 minutes, and we went 10 and 5 with 2 steals, which you would love if you could double and or triple those numbers to some substantial minutes. But it's just really tough because it's a great matchup for him tonight, and you want to play him because, I mean, it's one of the best spots for anybody, but you also are hesitant in your cash games if the guy ends up playing 23 minutes, and, I mean, you're going to need a hell of a performance in 23 minutes to pay off that price tag tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. I'm always worrisome on Faried because it just seems, even in great spots, I mean, the minutes are not always there. I mean, he rarely plays over 30 minutes a game, even when he's completely healthy, and kind of floats under that 26 to 28 mark. So I think you're going to see him in the 22 to 24 range. They said they're going to ease him back in. So I just think at his price tag, I mean, his price tag on DraftKings at 5,800 is not too bad, but still, you don't feel too good about it.
No. The other guy is Gary Harris is out for tonight, so that's going to be nice for Will Barton, who we saw 37 minutes in a couple games, then 22, 26, 27, 20, but last two, 29 and 30. He should be safe right around, I figure, 28 to 32 minutes tonight with Gary Harris out. And, I mean, we've seen it before with Denver. They ride the hot hand, so if if Will Barton gets it going with Gary Harris out, maybe we see him in the mid-30s. So I think he's a nice play at shooting guard tonight, too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Barton there. I think, Harden's obviously the top play, but other than that, we're kind of just really looking at McCollum and Barton, and if you're looking at DraftKings, Middleton at shooting guard as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we got some punts who we'll get to in a minute. Starting with Miami, who we've got Luol Deng out for tonight. Looks like Amari Stoudemire's out too. Nobody really cares about that. This isn't 2009. But either way, with Luol Deng out, Gerald Green, once again, going to be a popular play at shooting guard. And he's cheap on both sides. Only real downside to him is, I mean, he's very, very, very scoring dependent. One of the more scoring dependent guys in the league. We've seen him, though. I mean, the guy, when he gets it going, he can be an elite scorer. We saw it last year. Had huge usage off the bench for the Suns. Obviously, Chris Bosh also questionable for tonight, so that's more offense to go around. Obviously, with Deng already out, he should be solid, 28 to 34, 35 minutes. We saw 38 2 games ago. So if Bosh sits out, that's even more shots for Green, and I think he's a guy you can just go ahead and lock into your cash games to feel fine about it, especially if Bosh is out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I just think I'm going to punt at least one shooting guard spot tonight, and likely going to be Gerald Green there. And I mean, yeah, he's scoring reliant, but shooting the ball fairly well, shooting at a high volume too right now, even with Bosh in there. So if he is out, expect even more. And if he does get on a run, he can put up points in a hurry. And Boston, great matchup because they struggle against small forwards, ranking in the bottom 5 in fantasy points allowed. So I think kind of everything's in favor for Green being a popular cheap play tonight.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And then next up, Houston, talking about guys like Clint Capella, who have now moved into the 4 next to Dwight Howard because Terrence Jones has really struggled. And Capella, aside from that 8-minute performance against Memphis, you take that one out in his last 3 games, 16 and 14, 13 and 10, 18 and 11. Cheap on both sites, 4,600 on FanDuel, 51 on DraftKings. I mean, this is a guy that I'm just going to go ahead and slot into my cash games tonight and just move on. I mean, it's not an ideal matchup necessarily against Detroit, but it's not a bad one either. And at his price, I mean, he's low risk and he's got substantial upside, especially on DraftKings with that double-double bonus.
Yeah, I love Capella tonight. I don't see a reason to pay up at center. I mean, there are some nice plays. Hassan Whiteside I'm looking at for tournaments, but I think cash game is just going to be a cheap play and pay up for guys like Durant and Harden, and Capella's that play.
Yeah, absolutely. And then next up, talking about Boston and their rotations, we saw Jay Crowder talking about how he wants a consistent rotation. He's an okay play tonight, a guy that you don't love, but he's been getting some of the more consistent minutes of anybody on the team. 33 and 30 in his last 2 games. Really what you're looking at is the guards once again. With Marcus Smart still out, you're looking at Isaiah Thomas, who has played 32 and 31 and 39 last 3. Obviously a guy that can fill up a stat sheet in a ton of ways. He's the volume scorer. And then you've got, of course, Avery Bradley, who's going to get plenty of Dwayne Wade tonight. He's been in the mid to upper 30s, so, I mean, wouldn't be surprised to see him come close to, 35-plus minutes tonight in this matchup because they're going to need him to defend Wade, especially if we see Chris Bosh out, too.
Yeah, I mean, Bradley's probably the big lock for 30-plus minutes for sure. You don't love the matchup. Just, slow pace with Miami, but I don't like his price at all. I think Bradley's priced way too high now, especially with McCollum right there in the same pricing range.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I'm McCollum there all day. Bradley, a good tournament option, though, a guy that can score, but as we've seen recently, been pretty scoring dependent himself there also. Looking at Chicago now, this is a situation where we've got Aaron Brooks out, Kirk Heinrich, and most teams aren't really going to care about those 2 guys being out, but as much as you hate to say it, Derrick Rose in a pretty good spot tonight. 31 and 35 minutes in his last 2 games since missing the previous 2 before that. Hasn't been tremendously productive. Still, like you mentioned, we were talking before the show, not shooting the ball well. But Spurs have struggled against point guards in a big-time way. He's reasonably priced for a guy who's going to see probably 33 to 36 minutes tonight, maybe even more with those 2 guys both sitting out. So not a guy that I still feel okay about in cash games, but I think he's a really good target in GPPs. And due to his price, he's borderline cash play, but I think there's better options.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're looking at the guys in that pricing range, we both like Deron Williams tonight. I think he's your more standard cash game play, and Rose. Rose carries a higher upside if he can get a shot to fall because he's going to be locked into good minutes. Still a great matchup for both those players. But, I mean, I'm with you. Rose, solid tournament play. Probably won't hurt you tonight anyway just because he does have a decent floor if he gets a standard amount of minutes. So I don't hate it.
Yeah. Like you said, it's one of those ones where you say, if he fits, you kind of get him in there. If not, not one you're too concerned about. Looking over here at Sacramento now, obviously we've got the Rajon Rondo show. We've got JJ Barea is sitting out on the other side, so that's not a significant discount or difference on that side as far as Dallas goes, but it is helping Deron Williams, who we mentioned, is going to get a decent amount of minutes. He's fairly priced. He's been productive aside from a game against Memphis, but that's kind of been the trend a lot of times. You face a guy like Mike Conley, have a bad game, you kind of expect it. It's like facing Kawhi Leonard at small forward. You have a bad game. Of course you had a bad game. So Rajon Rondo, though, I'm not a huge narrative guy. We talked about it on the Sunday recap with Russell Wilson, his birthday, et cetera, but Rajon Rondo against his old team, the way that things ended in Dallas weren't very good with them. And Rondo, foul trouble last game, blowout as well. We've got DeMarcus Cousins officially questionable, but easily the most frustrating person to see questionable, doubtful. No one ever seems to know what's going on with Cousins. But either way, I hate to say it, but I'm a huge fan of Rajon Rondo in this matchup tonight because if there's any one player in the league that you just feel like hates his old team, it's got to be Rondo.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I think it's regardless if Cousins plays or not. I mean, Rondo's going to get his. You kind of actually like him a little bit more if Cousins does play because his assist numbers will go up. But
yeah, agreed.
I mean, Cousins, who knows? I mean, we saw the other night where he was doubtful, but then upgraded questionable, and then all of a sudden over the weekend, it was early in the day, and he was already ruled out. So who knows? I mean, I haven't seen anything on Twitter or anything on Roto-World or anything like that. So it's going to be one of those things to probably keep an eye on. And I think Rondo's just a safe play and probably avoid Kufos, if anything.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I do prefer Rondo more with Cousins down there because I feel like I could get 8 assists a game with Cousins down there in the paint, especially in a matchup like this against Dallas, who they don't have anyone down in the paint to slow Cousins. So speaking of that, if Cousins does play, we find out late that he's going to be in for sure. I love him tonight. I mean, I still like Capella. That's a nice cash game play, but I mean, it's hard to look away from Cousins against that Dallas interior if he does go. Another guy, Harrison Barnes, I'm going to sit out tonight. So you kind of think when you first look, say a week or so ago, if Harrison Barnes doesn't play, you see Iguodala, who had big minutes there for a while, but hasn't been the case. I mean, 22, 23, 22, 27 his last 4 games. Per minute basis, he's still an okay play as far as a punt goes, but really for Harrison Barnes sitting out here, It just makes me like Gordon Hayward quite a bit more. And we know Draymond Green can play the 3. I mean, he can play the 4, he can play the 5, he can play whatever he wants to play. So, really, if anything, I think it solidifies the role for Draymond Green as far as more minutes in this game. And it's not the best matchup, obviously, against Utah. But the great thing about a guy like Draymond Green is Utah's a great team at limiting points. But Draymond Green doesn't need to score points to put up huge games. 2 straight triple-doubles off 8 total field goals made in those 2 games, over 100 fantasy points on DraftKings there. So, I mean, I don't like his FanDuel price, but I love him on DraftKings tonight.
Yeah, and I think, either way, you're looking at a solid cash game and a solid tournament play because, probably going to be scared off by the Utah matchup. They've been good, but, I mean, not, to the point where I'm fading every power forward or center against them. So I think Green's a great play. I mean, triple-double threat every night, and you got to love him even in this matchup, especially on DK. Like you said, FanDuel price way too high.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those ones. I love Draymond Green. I love cash game plays that don't need to score actual points to produce. And I mean, it's still a spot where I think it's a perfect Draymond Green game. But that 8,200, I mean, putting in perspective, you see him $900 less than Blake Griffin against that Portland front court. I mean,
power forward is a little bit weak tonight, so I don't mind it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I personally never mind Draymond Green in cash games in any matchup at, I won't say any price, any recent price at least, but he's a fringe play there. Talking about some other plays that we like elsewhere, I like Gordon Hayward. He still seems kind of cheap. He's the guy that you and I have been talking about here for a couple weeks. Just too cheap for a guy who does have upside. And, you're missing a guy like Harrison Barnes, who's a pretty good defender. You're going to see Gordon Hayward. You need to make plays here. You got tough matchups for Favors against Draymond Green. You got a tough matchup for Gobert down low, however much Andrew Bogut actually sees. But tough matchup there. Steph Curry, there's no such thing as a tough matchup for him, so you can avoid that, especially against Utah. But Utah, I mean, the one real guy with a great spot for them, great matchup individually, is going to be Gordon Hayward, so I'm still a huge fan.
Yeah, I love Gordon Hayward. Love his price. Love him on both sides. I think we both named Durant as the top play anyway. But, yeah. I mean, if you're looking to go a little bit cheaper or maybe balanced, I mean, Hayward's my other favorite option at small forward.
Yeah, until his price gets up there. I mean, he has been fairly inconsistent, but over his last 5 games, pretty solid. And someone's going to need to score. Utah doesn't often have totals over 200 points in matchups like this. So up in pace, I'm a big fan of his here. All right, that's going to wrap things up for us for the Minutes to Win It. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and check out all the rest of our great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.